And as a matter of fact, interest rates have gone up some, but they started going up, as Mr. Truman very well knows, in March of 1951. And they have gone up since then, up until last June, and they've sort of stabilized now.
To get to another area of Mr. Truman's allegations, you were also a member of the Public Works Committee, I believe,
yes.
And as such probably have something that you would care to say in answer to his charges that matters of public domain are being taken away from the people in the service of private interests, such as the Hells Canyon Dam project on the Snake River. Something to do with the St. Lawrence Seaway, although I don't believe he mentioned that specifically in his speech.
Well, I'm not, haven't become in detail familiar with the Hells Canyon Dam project. I simply would refute any statement that anything is being taken away from the people. That is not the case at all. It has long been the philosophy of this country that the duty of government is to do only those things for the people which the people cannot do for themselves. And where private companies are able to do business, the government doesn't go and do the business. Now, when things have to be done, and private business is not able to do it, then and they must be done, then the government should do it. Some of the projects, some of the power that's been developed by government should have been developed by government. Now, in the case of the Hells Canyon Dam, as I say, I'm not in detail familiar with that. But certainly I feel sure of one thing, that if that is an essential project and the private interest can't do it, then I think it would be proper for the government to do it. The evidence seems to be so far from my slight familiarity with it that there are interests standing by, well qualified, well financed, well able to develop the power on that river, and that therefore it may be unnecessary for the government to do it. As far as the St. Lawrence Seaway is concerned, that's an entirely different question. It doesn't involve power.
It doesn't now
Not
because
the
they've
St.
broken
Lawrence
it down.
Seaway.
No. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
That's another subject, though, and I think that a project of that kind, regardless of its merits, should be held off as long as you can. As long as we have such a high rate of business activity, we don't want to superimpose on it a big public works program. They should be held in reserve.
Will you yield?
When we need them.
Will the senator yield for
yes,
just a second while I
sorry.
suggest that we broaden the subject and discuss something that's on everybody's mind day in and day out, and that's the Cold War. Are we fighting it effectively? Are we spending too much money on it? Are we fighting it in a hard or a soft way? What are your thoughts about it, sir?
Well, I feel we've made very definite headway with respect to the Cold War, that the indecision and lack of purpose has been replaced by careful planning, which is characteristic of General Eisenhower's operations. We've had success. We have seen truce in Korea. We have seen at least a stoppage of the bloodshed. What may come out of it yet, we aren't sure, but certainly that's a plus for us. We've seen the food riots in East Berlin. We've seen the picture of a young man trying to fight a Russian tank with his bare hands, with a rock. It's something a year ago you never believed you would have seen. We have seen a great victory in Germany. That's a diplomatic victory for the United States as well as for Eisenhower. That's a victory in the Cold War. And we have seen here the Congress cooperating with the President in such matters as voting to send surplus foods to Europe, legislation which will admit into this country over the next couple of years something over 200,000 refugees from behind the Iron Curtain. That was a Cold War bullet we were shooting there, and a very effective one in the opinion of the managers of the Cold War. So that I say, Mr. Morgan, I think we have made just in this year very marked and noticeable progress in connection with the Cold War. Included in that, too, should be our efforts to get at this subversion business within our own government.
Which brings us down quickly to a final question, Senator Bush, and that is, what do you think is the decisive issue or issues in the '54 congressional elections? Very quickly.
Well, of course, you ought to give me more than 1 minute for that.
I'm sorry.
I would say that the decisive issue is going to be the record of the Eisenhower administration for the first 2 years, or we might say right up to now, next year. That's going to be the record. The Eisenhower administration and the Republican Congress has not had time this year to complete its program, to do full justice to the to the planks in our own platform.
You feel it will stand on its own merits?
I feel that it will stand and stand successfully when that time comes.
Thank you very much, Senator Bush.
Yes, sir.
The opinions that you've heard our speakers express tonight have been entirely their own. The editorial board for this edition of the Longines Chronoscope was Edward P. Morgan and Winston Burnett, both of the CBS Television News Staff. Our distinguished guest was the Honorable Prescott Bush, United States Senator from Connecticut.